Welcome to another Comics Grinder. This is Henry Chamberlain, and we're going to be chatting with the creator of TREEBOY, James Hilger. So thank you so much, James, for taking the time to join me here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start with something that is a no-brainer. Tell us what the book is about.
Oh gosh, it's tough to kind of put it, it's if I could put it into words, I wouldn't have had to put it into words and pictures together. So it's always tough for me to offer like a succinct, kind of log line or something like that. But it's about obsession, it's about loss, it's about I don't know, looking for family out there in the vastness of the void.
Oh, that's a great answer. Actually, if it was easy to say, I wouldn't have embarked on a graphic novella. Perfect. So
Yes.
the whole idea of Tree Boy, we were talking a little bit. I like to do this with folks to break the ice, and the whole idea of the title Tree Boy. This is like a name that the kids stick on the character, and it's such a silly, nonsensical
Silly,
name.
yeah. But
What comes to
it's the
mind?
sort of thing that kids do though, isn't it? There's some kind of some they latch onto some silly bit and then they kind of just run with it. And the character's hair was a bit longer and his name happened to be Leaf, and so there's a weeping willow tree. His middle name was Leaf, so there's a weeping willow tree kind of thing going on, and kids will just seize on any. Kids are like comedians. Like when you're in the front row. I've got a friend that won't wear a hat if he sits in, he wears fedoras and he won't wear it if he goes to a comedy show, if he's got to sit near the front row because, like white on rice.
He wants to sit in the front row. Oh my
I
goodness.
think he wants to sit in the front row, but I don't think he wants to wear the fedora and sit in the front row.
No, that's like
He's
that's
asking for it.
really
Yeah.
asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. So I don't know. I guess he was asking for it somehow. Alvin Limoncello. I don't know.
Then the whole idea of hidden worlds, because that's a favorite for so many cartoonists. What comes to mind is the theme of hidden worlds.
I don't know. It's like, there's a line in the book somewhere. It's like, I just kind of, when I was young, I always felt like there was just kind of something that was kind of like hidden, like just outside the edges of our periphery. And it turns out some of that stuff could be occult knowledge or, I don't know, just deep spiritual teachings or, it's not the sort of thing you learn in primary school. There's something else going on in the world that you're not privy to, certainly in grade school, but probably and often later in life as well.
Are you a fan of Jim Woodring?
It's funny. I've just started to see his work on Instagram, and it's totally mesmerizing. Yeah, it's the way they almost look like lino cuts or wood cuts,
Yeah.
but I guess they're ink and I don't know. He uses it like a chiseled pen, like a marker or like a pen nib or something like that. I don't know how he gets
It's
those patterns that he
a nib for sure.
yeah,
It's also just years of diligently plying
doing
your
that.
craft.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very impressive. It's mesmerizing.
Well, there's so many cartoonists. I won't do justice to so many by for not mentioning them, but Jim Woodring certainly comes to mind as somebody who tears the fabric of reality. He's always thinking about that.
Does he do sequential work? Because I've just sort of seen like single standalone pieces.
Oh yes,
He does. Okay.
yes, and that tickles me because you're of a younger. There's so many generations and sub generations because it doesn't cut completely Gen X and then Generation
Yeah,
Y.
I
There's
guess I am
overlaps.
Gen X.
Gen X.
Yeah, I'm
I
definitely Gen Xy.
good. Well, I identify was as a Gen Xer because baby boomers just we as growing up we despise baby boomers. So I can't be a baby boomer. I'm older, but I'm like the older Gen X,
Got it.
which right in the thick of it, I guess. But
Hmm.
and anyway, Jim Woodring is definitely somebody who you'll want to look into more. And then the whole idea of just being a misfit, what comes to mind?
Don't know. I don't know if I was a misfit. I might have been. There's a good chance that I was. But you know, it's being, you know, a misfit is it's a blessing in a lot of ways, right? You
Mm.
get a lot of time to kind of you know, hone your craft. You know, in my case, I spent a lot of time drawing and writing and seeing and thinking, and so I think it was beneficial. I definitely wasn't the star of the football team.
There you go. Well, before we started, you were saying that maybe there's a connection between being a misfit and being in touch with the
It could
mystical.
be, yeah, there could be. Yeah, there
I
could
like
be.
that. And then, well, this I think you can reveal as much as you want, but I'm sensing that there is some autobio going on here. What can you tell us
Yeah,
about
I
the
mean, I
autobio?
guess there would have to be. I mean, I don't know if my powers are such yet that I could invent, you know, everything that you know, that's in there. So you know, it's definitely fiction, but there's some, you know how it is. There's always a little bit of you in there.
Well, the dynamics, the whole world of autobio is all about the details. So you've got this wedding ring going down the kitchen sink. You've got this severed arm. It's like a mummified arm from the Civil War. These
Yeah,
details are
which is
priceless.
which is in, you know, part of the fabric of our reality here. Well, the severed arm anyway. I can't remember. I saw it somewhere. I think maybe a social media post years and years ago, because I started TreeBoy quite a while ago. I probably started it 6 years ago or so now, and I put it down. I made an indie movie, and I had a child. My wife and I had a child, and so she kept telling me, "You got to get back to TreeBoy. You got to get back to TreeBoy." And I just had the stack of pages, and my son went to school. Our son went to school, so I had the last 7 months to work, you know, while he was at preschool. So that's how I was able to finish it, you know, finish it up.
What can you tell us about the world of creative writing, filmmaking, and comics? How they complement each other? Uh, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's that phrase in show business, triple trouble. Like, what is it? It's singing, acting, and dancing. It's like, it's something like that for all these disciplines as well. It's like if you could do one, it kind of, you know, it's like you know, you could do the others, I was going to say, but you know, I spent a lot of time like working in restaurants, and I did roofing, and I sold things door to door. I had all kind, you know, manner of jobs, and you know, I could look back and say like, oh, that was terrible, and I wasted time, and I could have been, you know, learning craft or something like that. But you know, here in middle age, I've discovered that there's really no such thing as wasted time, as you know, as you probably realized yourself. Like everything is, you know, everything sort of feeds into, you know, into something else and like complements something else and makes other things, you know, easier. You know, it's funny how it happens. It's almost too perfect.
Yes, isn't that interesting? I think
Yeah.
you'll win over a lot of readers from what you just said. Yeah, especially as the years keep rolling around, you see patterns,
Patterns. Yes, exactly.
and I don't know. I'm just for anyone that feels like they're stuck or they're like really wondering, well, when are things going to kick in? They're going to kick in all too soon before you know it, and then you'll actually get to the point where you start to feel grateful for all of these things that happen, even the bad, maybe not the worst things,
Yeah,
but
even
some of
things
the
that
bad
felt
things.
bad. Sure. Yeah.
So uh, I'm really impressed with the book, how it is like it is a full-bodied story with a beginning, middle, and an end.
That's why I was so adamant about calling it a graphic novella, which sounds a little you know, cheesy. I'm well aware, and kind of smacks of like a marketing term, but it really is a kind of like, it's a comic with with literary roots, and there is, as you say, a beginning, middle, and end, and and I think there's quite a bit of bang for the buck. I don't know how long an average is. I think it's about 20 pages or so. So
For,
Tree weighs in at about 38 pages or so. So
right.
it's, nearly double that. It's a funny, I guess it's a funny kind of maybe bastard child of a comic and a graphic novel.
So you are of an age where you're discovering certain things in comics. Tell us about how you got into comics.
Gosh, I don't know. I remember some of my first comics, when I was very young in Yonkers, New York. Some of my first comics were, early, like late, I guess they were early 80s, like 81, Fantastic Four, or I remember a Star Wars comic that my dad probably got from the grocery store on a spinner rack, something. And after that it was, the obvious, the usual suspects, Marvel and DC, mostly Marvel. But I discovered independent comics in high school as I got a little older. When I grew up in Connecticut, kind of in what was a very rural town, and I got a car, an old Plymouth, and I was able to drive to the next town over, which are a couple towns over, which had a kind of cooler comic shop, and it was there that I discovered some of the stuff that went on to influence me. Things like David Lapham's Stray Bullets was a big one. Um, all kinds of stuff, milk, Evan Dorkit's Milk and Cheese, the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Eastman and Laird, like The Crow, James O'Barr's The Crow, all kinds of things like that. All
No,
that
that
stuff with a kind of that felt like a kind of DIY, had a DIY like ethos behind it, like a black and white, and just kind of get it, looks like they were just getting it done.
exactly. Well, I come back to Chester Broncos. He was one of the first really in-your-face mini comics figures that I discovered. I had to take a trip out to a bigger city. I was already in Houston, which is a pretty big city, but I had to
Hmm.
take a trip to New York, and I went through some of the comic book shops and some of the more esoteric hipster comic book shops, and that's where I discovered Yummy Fur, among
I
other
think I
things.
think I might have seen Yummy for too. If it was that out in '97?
Yes, and it was out earlier than that too.
Oh,
But
okay. Was Yummy Fur was a series, right?
yes,
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I do
yes.
remember that. I did a year of art school at School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street in Manhattan, and there was a cool comic shop there up a flight of stairs, like up a walk, it's a walk up, called Cosmic Comics on 23rd Street, that I discovered some pretty cool stuff at
Oh,
too.
well, you're a delicate line. Well, I'm calling it delicate. It's sometimes. Yeah, overall I see it as and this is a compliment. It's just a nice fluid line is another way of putting it, but it's also it can you have a nice way of using the thin line as well. Because are you using a nib or a brush or what are you using?
I used both. Yeah, I used a I think that's how you say it, Takikawa G-nib. And I used a Hunt 102 at times, used a Hunt 107 at other times, and I used a very small brush. I'll be criticized for this, I know, but I use a number one Raphael, uh, whatever it's called, the watercolor brush, the pointed watercolor brush.
No, that's great because yeah, it can be sometimes a chore to try to get that thinner line with the classic Winsor Newton Series 7 number 2, which
Yeah, the two is a little, it's tough to get a good. I have them, of course. That's what I started out using when I was a teenager, but I didn't have a good one to begin with. And so I was like wrestling with this brush, and it was like, it's like when you have bedhead in the morning and your hair is like, that's what my, like, but washing it does a good, helps keep it, in the right shape. I've been using that Masters brush soap. And somebody told me recently, if it gets really out of form, you can dip it in some hot water, and it will kind of start behaving itself again.
sure, yeah. That I'm kind of thinking about. I got into art and comics and all of it in a very multidiscipline minded way myself because I swore I was going to be focusing on painting, but then at the same time I swore I was going to be focusing on creative writing, and then I was also doing a comic strip in my college paper. So it's I wonder what made you get into comics and do it all in the old school way. Was it just something that was like a natural thing for you, or just I just this is something I love. I'm just going to dive in and do it, or
It's just kind of like, so I've done like a little bit of, filmmaking, and it's nice to know that there's a whole camera department and lighting department, and there's a script and a bevy of actors in a bottle of ink. You don't need anything. So that's very attractive after having to to do all that, to produce, motion pictures. So it's very, for me, it's like when you work in film too. I've only done just a bit, but it was a feature film. It's tough to get it's tough to get exactly what you want, since it's by its nature a collaborative process. So it's when you do comics, like I am to blame for everything on the page. It's all my fault. So you have to kind of just live and die by that.
well, people will always ask, "Oh, is this going to become a movie someday?" But the thing about the comic is, it'll never be what it is as a comic. It'll always the comic is the comic.
Yeah, they've tried to do like things like that. I remember those Sin City movies. They tried to hew pretty close to what Frank Miller did, but it's still not quite the same.
Well, it's a different animal, but
It's a different animal. Yeah.
I can't. Oh God, now I'm drawing a blank. The Daniel Klaus movie they did, the one that with Scarlett Johansson and Thora
Oh,
Birch.
yeah.
What
Ghost World.
Ghost
Yeah.
World? Now I think that really got to the spirit of the comic, and
I think so too. I think he worked pretty closely with this. I
it's
don't know,
something.
is it Zwigoff?
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
sure I'm pronouncing it wrong.
yeah. But it's difficult to get something really special like that. But going back to your comic, I like how you're a searcher. You're trying to find meaning in life, and then midway in the comic is when he has the epiphany with the dream girl. What can you and it happens so much in literature. It can't help but the the searcher finding their soulmate or their reason for living. What can you tell us about that?
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. There's a part of me that that thinks that, there's many things baked into that, of course, but one thing I think of, the myth of Narcissus looking in the river at himself. So it could be something like that. I'm not privy to all the reasons why I do things, you know. It's like they say, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. You know,
There you
I
go.
I agree. I would agree with that.
So, what is the reaction that you're getting? Because you've gone to a few comics festivals since it came out. What's that been like for you?
I have. It's pretty, if I'm honest, it's pretty brutal sitting there, and you've worked for years, hunched over, my arthritic middle-aged hand, carving this thing out of the ether, and to see people, walking by, and it's not easy, but it makes it worth it when somebody does actually stop and they pick it up and they look and they hand you your hard-earned money. It is like there's something pretty, pretty bananas about that. I don't know what to say, but it's very humbling. It's like the opposite of an ego boost. It's like for me, it's exactly the other way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
perfect answer. The thing about that interaction between the potential buyer and the creator, it is what it is, and it's very awkward, or it can be awkward for the for both parties.
it's very. I'm still figuring. I'm very new to this, as you know, and I'm still figuring out how to navigate it. But it's a very clean. interaction. It's not like I'm trying to sell a guy a garage door opener,
Very,
and I need to make a quota by the end by Thursday night or whatever, or I get canned, whatever. So it's a little bit cleaner of an interaction, I would say.
no, yeah, there's that understanding. So you're like among friends with that because it's not a hard sell, and there's really no wrong or right way to go about it. I guess for the creator maybe needs to always put themselves in the shoe of the customer and just nudge things along a little bit. Hey, how's it going? Or
Yeah,
whatever it might be, whatever
I
works
think
for you.
I see a lot of people kind of hiding out. I see like people have constructed these erector set kind of facades in front of them, and they're kind of hiding out behind it. I saw somebody kind of passing the work through a slot, like which I thought about for a second, doing a kind of honor system, like just do your Venmo or whatever, leave the money in a jar, and just take the book, and we don't have to talk. It's like whatever you call it, touchless this or that. You just go pick up the zip car and you scan the thing or whatever. It felt very modern for a second, but I stood there and people had to we had to access each other in the third dimension and
Oh,
look at each other and feel each other out and all that good human stuff.
hey, that's the only way to go.
Yeah, I think
When
that's
in
kind
doubt,
of
be human.
yes, yeah, yeah. That's a good motto.
Wow. Especially with that AI thing I keep hearing about. Humans rule.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's got to be a place for it. I don't know if there's a place in art, but maybe it could make something easier. I really don't know enough about it. It's tempting to watch. Sometimes you see the videos and, somebody will animate an old Jack Kirby comic or something, and it's tempting to watch but it doesn't quite, it feels a little icky, you know.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
wife's always talking about how much water those like servers or the machines that run the AI they use a lot of water for cooling apparently. So it's like, I don't know how many gallons of water to make a silly video with, George Jefferson fighting a Mortal Kombat character or something, but it's not worth it, I don't think.
Agreed. Agreed. So the second half of the book, it's dealing with ideal, confronting idealism, leaning into wanting to have things a certain way. That is this bizarre, very original thing that happens, and then the family issues. What
Yeah.
what can you tell us about the family issues? Because then that dovetails into the rest of the stuff that gets kind
Yeah.
of
How do you mean the family stuff? Maybe
well,
speak just if you could a little more specifically.
well. He has to confront his own family, which he's been avoiding. I
Oh,
don't
I
want to give
see.
away the story,
Oh,
but
I see. Yeah,
I'll let
yeah.
you choose what you want to say.
Yeah. What could I say about that? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's not the final showdown, but it's like, the when you lose, something, big, be it a family member or, a limb, as it were, it's like it's not the final showdown. It's not the final boss, but it's kind of getting pretty close. I guess it's what they would call a mini boss in the old video games. Maybe they still call them that. So it just kind of forces you to come up against something that's like, you know, I think in the case of my book, it's something that's pretty immovable that has unlimited hit points. I would say to use video game lingo.
Well, I think that anyone would get something out of your book, and just to seek out Tree Boy. I have a few other bullet points I could throw at you. What's the marketing of the book, the comics festivals we chatted about a little bit. Well, have you found it challenging to go into comic book shops, or do you just go in there and say, "Hey,
I haven't. It's I just I have dumb, they say God protects fools and and drunks, and I it's certainly to embark on a career in comics in middle age is pretty foolish. So I think I feel, some protection and some early beginner's luck, um, I would say, but it's just I really have there's nothing else I could do, so it's just make stuff. So I kind of have to make this work.
no, that's great." Well, I would just say to you, just be yourself because that's what people love. They want to hear somebody's story and why are they in it, and just being honest. That's what it's all about. Just being honest about who you are and why are you doing these comics, and you're answering that
Yeah,
naturally.
you hit on something in your review which I liked. You said that you got a sense that I was kind of like maybe not muddling through it, but sort of figuring my way out as figuring it out as I was doing it, which is I would say spot on. So good job on that.
Well, thank you so much. And what uh, what do you see as not necessarily your next project, although you can maybe say something about that, but the future of Tree Boy? You've got Small Press Expo coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
Any
So we'll see. I think I probably will appear at SPX. I've gotten a little gun shy over these bigger conventions, so I might try some smaller ones and kind of, baby step, my way up to SPX. But I'll probably go. Um, but the book is available at a whole bunch of comic shops now around, I'm in New York, so the tri-state area, it's available online. The comic shops in New York have been very, very gracious and super cool. Gabe at Desert Island Comics has been super cool. Escape Pod Comics out on Long Island has been super cool. Um, Michael at Royal Collectibles here in Queens, super cool. People have been really supportive, and I feel really humbled and grateful. It's just a weird thing that I did in a tiny desk in my bedroom, and now it's on. It's in a bag with a backing board on a comic shop shelf. It's very it's a little surreal for me.
Well, I think that'd be a perfect way to end it, but I just need to say a little bit more. I want to say this is totally not weird because you're hitting it. You're hitting it on the mark. You've got a natural affinity for it. The results
Thank
are
you.
great. So you don't have to, and your age is perfect. I mean, you've got the wisdom.
I
Uh,
wish I were a bit younger, but I couldn't have
that
done
no,
it
that
if I were
doesn't.
younger,
No, no, no,
So
no.
it's,
Don't
how it
think that
is.
way. Don't
Yeah.
do not think that way. Does because it doesn't matter in one way or the other. What matters is what you're creating.
Yes. Yes. Well said.
All right. Well, take care, and maybe we'll do this again sometime.
I
Thanks so
hope so,
much,
Henry.
James.
Henry, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.